Hi, so today we'll be going over today's class. It was 1-2, multiplying and dividing integers. So first of all, I just wanted to say that addition, sorry, multiplication and division, they are, they're, they're the same on the uh, order of operations things, just like addition and subtraction is. We'll learn that tomorrow. So it doesn't really matter which one you do first, as long as you do all of them and you're accounting for what needs to go first. For example, uh, in fractions, and yeah, that's really what I'm going to go over today. Um, yeah, all right. So how you're going to do things is um, when multiplying and dividing, as long as you have an odd number of um, subtraction signs, it's going to be negative. For example, 5 times negative 4. We're going to do multiplication as usual. Since there's no sign here, we assume that it is multiplication. Okay, it is 20. 5 times 4 is 20. And since we only have one negative sign, 1 is an odd number, so it's negative 20. Negative 5 times negative 4. 5 times 4 is 20. We have two negative signs in this particular operation, which means that it is a positive number. Two subtraction signs, that's even, and even number of subtraction signs means a positive number. Multiplication is also commutative, just like addition. So 5 times negative 4 is equal to negative 4 times 5. Which is also equal to, this isn't the commutative property anymore, but this is also equal to negative 5 times 4, which is also equal to 4 times negative 5. To keep in mind is when doing algebra, never use this sign. Never use the division sign. I highly recommend at all times use fractions, and if you really need to, use decimals. But fractions are going to be your best friend, even though they might seem harder than decimals right now. But fractions will be much easier, especially when multiplying and dividing fractions. Multiplying and dividing decimals is hard unless you really have a calculator. But once we get into irrational ones and non-terminating ones, you're gonna find that fractions are your best friend. For example, 1/3. You can't write that as a decimal. You can write that as a fraction. And 1/3, I don't know, actually, like 1/9, 1/3, 2/3, and stuff like that. Those are gonna you're gonna find that a lot in algebra. 17 over uh, 59. Fractions are gonna be your best friend. Make sure you use fractions all the time. So I hope you have like a piece of scratch paper out because we're just gonna do some practice problems. So the first practice problem we're going to do for this small part is negative 8 times 2. I'll give you a minute to do that. This is actually, you should be able to do this in your head. You don't need scratch paper for this. 8 times 2 is 16. No negative sign, one negative sign. One negative sign means that it is a negative number. Negative 16. And the next problem, 2 times 4. If you answered 8, you'd be correct. 2 times 4 is 8. No negative sign, no negative sign. 0 is an even number. That means it's a positive number. Just 8. Alright, the next problem we're going to do is negative 4 times negative 6. If you answered 24, you'd be correct. 4 times 6 is 24. 1 negative sign, 2 negative signs. 2 is an even number. That means that your answer should be a positive number. The thing to keep in mind when doing multiplication and division is that unlike subtraction and addition, the so-called 0 is actually 1. For example, 1 times 4. That's 4. Unlike in addition, when 0 plus 4 is 4. So just keep in mind, just like in addition, when 0 is left out, 1 can also be left out. For example, negative 4, written like this is actually negative 1 times 4. However, we know that 1 is basically the 0 of multiplication and division. So you can basically, you don't have to write that out, but the negative sign you do. Negative 4. Now let's go a bit further and do division. Division follows the same rules as multiplication. 5 over 5. That's 1. But if we have 1 negative sign, it's negative. 2 negative signs, then it's positive. Notice that the negative signs can be on either side. As long as you have 1 negative sign, it's a negative number. Let's do a practice problem. Negative 20 divided by 4. If you could do it in your head, that's great. The answer is negative 5. 20 divided by 4 is 5. Since we only have 1 negative sign, that means it's a negative number, because 1 is a odd number. The thing to keep in mind is that the fraction, the line, that is the same as the division sign. This is equal to negative 20 divided by 4. Except, as I said, try to stay away from the division sign as much as possible, because division, like that, is almost never, if you see it at all, I don't know what you're looking at, but you will always see fractions. Fractions are one of the most important parts of algebra. The next problem is negative 16 over negative 8. If you answered 2, you'd be correct. 16 divided by 8 is 2. You have 2 negative signs. 2 is an even number, which means that your answer should be positive. Let's talk a bit more about division. Division is also like the addition and subtraction. They are basically the same thing. The same applies to multiplication and division. In addition, 5 minus 4 is the same as 5 plus -4. -4 is its own term. 5 is its own term. You can add terms. However, in multiplication and division, we use what is called keep, change, flip. For example, when doing 1/2 divided by 1/6, we do what is called keep, change, flip. We keep the first number, we change the sign, and then we flip the second number. We see that this equals 3. We can apply that when doing complex fractions. For example, the question 4 times 4 divided by 2 times -16 divided by -2 times 2 divided by 8 minus 2. Something really, really important that you need to realize is that this division sign, this fraction line, is the longest. And this is no accident. This needs to be the longest. What this is saying is that this is equal to 4 times 4 over 2 times -16 divided by -2 times 2 divided by 8 times -2. This is basically what it's saying. Instead of 4 times 4 over this, you need to realize that this is what's separating us. If this one was the longest, then the answer would be completely different. You have to keep that in mind when doing complex fractions. So let's solve it. You know that we do keep, change, flip. So let's do that. 4 times 4 over 2 times -16. We keep that first number, so this is the exact same. We change the sign, now multiplication, and then we flip this. 8 over -2, 8 times -2 divided by -2 times 2. And you should know how to multiply fractions as well. Multiplying fractions is much easier than adding fractions. So let's do this. 4 times 4 is 16. Take that out. This is -1. So this is -2. Let's first simplify this. You take this out. This becomes -1. So we just add that to -1 times 8. So that's -8. And you can simplify this to -1, -1/2 times -8 divided by -2 is 4. Because we have two negative signs, 2 is an even number, so you get 4. 4 is equal to 4 over 1, and you multiply those fractions, you get -2. You can simplify all that down to just -2. So, that's that. Let's just go over adding, subtracting, and fractions as well, because that's kind of what we need to learn as well. You should know how to do this already, but in case you don't, I'm gonna go over that right now. It's like 15 minutes long already. Anyway, when adding and subtracting fractions, you need to have the same denominator, unlike in multiplying and dividing fractions. For example, you can't add 1/2 to 1/6 as is. You have to find the least common denominator. In this case, it is 6, and we can find that by finding the least common multiple. 2, it is 2, 4, 6, 8, and as for 6, you have 6, 12, 18, 24, and we see that the least common multiple is 6, which means that the least common denominator is 6. To convert 1/2 into sixths, we need to find out what the denominator needs to be done, what needs to be done to the denominator to get 6. We know that 2 times 3 is 6, so we have to multiply the top and bottom by 6 to make sure they're the same, because we have the equal sign. 2 times 3 plus 6. And since 6 is already as it's supposed to be, you don't need to change it. This is simplified to 3 over 6 plus 1/6, which is equal to 4 over 6. You do not touch the denominator. It still stays the same. You add the numerators, you get 4 over 6. However, this still can be simplified. 4 can be divided into 2. So can 6. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So this can be simplified to 2/3. However, you might also have an equation, an equation that looks like this: 4th plus 2/3. How to do this? Well, we need to find the least common multiple of the denominators as well. 4, 8, 12, 16. For 3, it's 3, 6, 9, 12. We see that the least common multiple is 12. That means the denominator must be 12 to be able to add these numbers. So let's do that. 1 times 3, since 4 times 3 is 12. Do the same thing to the top and bottom. It is equal plus 2 times 4, because 3 times 4 is 12, over 3 times 4. Simplify that to 3 over 12 plus 8 over 12. You don't touch the denominator, and we add the numerator, we get 11 over 12. Same can be done with subtraction, as long as you have the same denominator. That's it for this class. This was an exceptionally long video, by the way. Do the homework. I don't really have anything else to say. Just do the homework. It'll be graded as soon as possible. It's due Tuesday night. Test on Friday. The first week should be really easy, so really isn't anything to say other than that. Do the homework. Just thinking, is there something else? I don't think so. Just another important note, when doing complex fractions, you have to watch and see what the longest line is to know where the division sign is. I don't think we have anything else. Yeah. Multiplying and dividing integers is, in my opinion, much easier than adding and subtracting them. So, yeah, just keep in mind, no negative signs, positive, 0 is positive, 1 negative sign is negative, and 2 negative signs is positive. To talk about is when having fractions with multiple terms, you cannot subtract them. For example, 1/2 is not 2/3. You might say, oh, I added 1 to both sides, top and bottom. 1 plus 1 is 2, 2 plus 1 is 3. However, that's not how division works. Division and multiplication are a set. So you must use multiplication and division to alter the numbers to make them equal. In this case, we need to multiply if we want to change it. If we multiply each side by 2, at the top and bottom by 2, you get 2 over 4. 1/2 is equal to 2 over 4 because we multiply both sides. We cannot add because adding is not in a set with multiplication and division.